Ever wonder what really goes on in those, exclusive
Mhm.
clubs, the ones you only hear whispers about? Today, we're ditching the tired cliches and diving headfirst into the world of modern swinging. We're talking about the motivations, the complexities, the stuff beyond those velvet ropes. And to guide our deep dive, we've got excerpts from What is a Swinger? Less about those key parties you might be picturing. This is about navigating this whole surprisingly nuanced lifestyle. So get ready, because we're about to seriously rethink what you thought you knew. Okay, so let's just lay it all out there. When we say swinging, like in the 21st century,
Yeah.
what are we actually talking about?
It's definitely not your grandparents' free love era, that's for sure. Think of it more like couples today, pushing those boundaries of, well, what a relationship can even be. Imagine, right, a couple choosing very deliberately to explore intimacy, but with other people. And not because like something's missing or they want to stray or whatever. It's almost like this conscious choice to like invite new experiences, but together. It becomes its own bonding thing.
Okay, so it's almost like this unexpected way to like strengthen the connection you already have.
Exactly. And the guide really emphasizes how crucial honesty and consent are for this whole thing to work. Both partners got to be like genuinely enthusiastic about exploring, pushing their desires further, but together.
Which makes me think there can't be some like one size fits all approach to this, right? Even within this world of, you know, consensual exploration, there's got to be a whole range of comfort levels and boundaries.
You're absolutely right. And the guide digs into this too. It talks about, for example, the difference between soft swaps and hard swaps.
Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. For anyone listening who's unfamiliar, can you break those terms down?
Picture it like dipping your toes in a pool versus just like cannonballing right in.
Hmm.
So a soft swap might be more about exploring intimacy without actual intercourse, focusing on sensuality, pushing boundaries, but not necessarily going all the way.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, what feels exciting and safe for both partners, even within like a single encounter.
Exactly. It's all about tailoring the experience to individual desires. Then, on the opposite end, you've got hard swaps. That's where couples are comfortable with, let's just say, a much wider range of experiences and physical intimacy.
It's interesting, though, because in a way, this mirrors the communication and boundaries that are crucial in any relationship. But it makes you wonder, how is swinging different from other types of ethical non-monogamy, like open relationships, polyamory? They all seem to share this thread of honesty and consent, right?
You've hit on something that trips people up all the time. Yeah, they do all fall under that big ethical non-monogamy umbrella, but the nuances matter.
Okay, so help us untangle this web a little bit. What makes swinging its own distinct thing?
Swinging, at its core, is about the physical connection, the thrill of those new dynamics. But here's the thing. There isn't really an expectation of emotional attachment. Think of it like a really passionate dance, exhilarating in the moment, but not meant to last forever.
So it's not like going to a club, meeting someone, and suddenly you're trying to start a second relationship on the side,
Exactly. It's more like you're adding this unique spice to the connection you already have, not trying to build a whole separate romance.
which makes it very different from, say, an open relationship, where those emotional entanglements outside the main partnership are part of the deal.
You got it. Open relationships often involve, like, actually dating others, experiencing that different kind of intimacy, emotional and physical. Think of it as having that freedom to explore other connections, but your partner knows about it, is okay with it.
So we've got this whole spectrum within non-monogamy itself, varying levels of emotional involvement. And then there's polyamory, which honestly seems to be getting a lot more mainstream attention lately. Where does that fit in?
Polyamory.
Yeah.
It takes that whole multiple connections thing even further.
Mm.
It's about fully embracing the fact that a person can be in love with and committed to multiple partners all at the same time, each one meaningful, each one with its own depth.
So not just, oh, I'm open to additional partners, but like really deeply loving multiple people. And everyone's cool with it.
Absolutely. It really challenges that traditional idea of romantic exclusivity. Like one person is all you can love. Polyamory says, nope, you can have the capacity to love multiple people deeply and truly. And everyone involved knows and accepts that.
Wow, it's like rewriting the rules of love and commitment as we know them. But okay, with all these options, how does a couple even begin to figure out if any of this is right for them? Like if swinging or any form of ethical non-monogamy is something they should even consider?
That, my friend, is where the real work begins. And thankfully that What is a Swinger Guide, it doesn't shy away from this at all. It really hammers home the importance of radical honesty, like deep introspection. And this needs to happen long before you even think about stepping foot in a club.
So less about diving headfirst into this whole new world and more about like taking a really good look at your relationship first.
Exactly. The guide even uses this term compersion.
Compersion. Okay, now that's a new one on me.
So compersion is wild. Imagine getting to a point where your partner's happiness, even if it's coming from someone else, it brings you joy too. Like you genuinely feel happy because they're experiencing pleasure, fulfillment, even if you're not directly involved.
Whoa. Okay, that's like next level empathy and trust right there.
Yeah.
Instead of feeling jealous or insecure, their happiness actually amplifies your own.
You got it. And the guide's pretty clear. If you're not at least open to the possibility of feeling compersion, then swinging's probably not going to be a good fit.
Makes sense. Trying to force it would probably do more harm than good, right?
100%. And another thing the guide cautions against is using swinging as some kind of like Band-Aid for existing relationship problems.
Right. So if a couple is already struggling with communication, trust issues, unmet needs, swinging's not going to magically erase all that.
Exactly. If anything, it'll probably just make those problems worse.
So it's like build a strong foundation first. Then you can think about adding those more adventurous extensions onto your relationship house.
Perfect analogy. The guide actually recommends that couples who are facing those kind of struggles, they should maybe try couples therapy first. Get that solid base of communication, trust, emotional intimacy. That's crucial no matter what, right? Monogamous, open, whatever.
It's about getting the foundation right, so no matter what you build on top, it can actually stand strong.
Exactly. And once you've got that strong foundation, you're on the same page, you're ready to explore. The guide says next step is education.
Hit the books, although maybe not in the traditional sense.
Not quite. Think of it like learning a whole new language, or even entering a subculture, There's lingo to pick up, etiquette, unspoken rules of engagement.
Otherwise, you're going to walk in and make all kinds of awkward faux pas. Nobody wants that.
The guide actually suggests starting with online forums, even Reddit threads, believe it or not.
Which makes sense, especially given how much stigma still surrounds swinging.
Exactly. It gives couples a way to explore their curiosity anonymously, dip their toes in the information pool without feeling judged.
I like that. So you've got your online forums for discreet research, but what about when you're ready for something more, immersive?
Well, once you've got a handle on the basics, the guide suggests venturing out into the real world. Maybe start by checking out a swingers club.
Makes sense. But I'm guessing there are some do's and don'ts for that too.
Oh, absolutely. And here's where it gets interesting. The guide actually recommends going as a voyeur first.
Ooh, like a sneak peek behind the curtain before you decide if you want to join the play?
Exactly. It's all about observation, getting comfortable. You get to experience the vibe, see how people interact, figure out if it feels, safe and aligned with your values.
And maybe get some inspiration for your own adventures. But even in this voyeur stage, it sounds like respect and awareness are still key.
100%. Consent is still absolutely paramount. The guide emphasizes getting explicit permission before you observe or interact with any other couples.
Right. Just because people are in that space doesn't mean anyone can disregard boundaries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It all comes back to those foundations of ethical non-monogamy we talked about. Open and honest communication, mutual respect, and making sure consent is present every step of the way.
So we've got online forums, we've got swingers clubs. But are there other resources out there, like for couples who are new to this world and want to connect with people who get it?
Definitely. There's actually a website the guide mentions specifically called Swing Lifestyle.
Swing Lifestyle? What's that all about?
Think of it like a one-stop shop for all things swinging. They have info on local events. You can connect with other swingers in your area. Plus, they've got tons of tips and advice from couples who've been doing this for a while.
So it's a good way to navigate this world, especially if you're feeling a little lost or overwhelmed at first.
Exactly. And beyond Swing Lifestyle, there are tons of online communities, social media groups. There are even dating apps now specifically designed for, like, polyamorous folks.
It's amazing how technology has made it easier to find your people, no matter how you choose to, define your relationships.
Right. It speaks volumes about how the world of relationships is changing. And this deep dive, honestly, we're just scratching the surface here. There's so much more to explore.
No doubt. But I feel like you've already given us some incredible takeaways, especially about the importance of communication and informed consent. Those feel like huge takeaways here.
For sure. Honestly, that's the bedrock of any healthy relationship, right? Whether it's totally monogamous or you're exploring any form of non-monogamy.
It's so true. It's almost like This whole deep dive, it's been less about swinging specifically and more about like redefining what a relationship can even be. When you
Mm,
approach it with that honesty, that openness.
such a good point.
Yeah.
This whole exploration into swinging, it kind of highlights those universal principles,
Mm-hmm.
communication, respect for each other, genuinely wanting your partner to be happy.
Yeah. And even if like swinging itself isn't something a couple chooses to actually DO,
Yeah.
just the conversations it starts, right?
Here.
About boundaries, desires, what it means to truly support your partner's fulfillment. Those are valuable for any relationship.
Totally. It's recognizing that like one size fits all just doesn't work for relationships. The most important thing is finding what feels authentic, fulfilling for both of you. And that takes communication and being willing to, challenge those old school norms.
Yeah, like writing your own relationship rule book instead of just blindly following what you're supposed to do.
Exactly. And for those who are intrigued by this whole swinging thing, this deep dive's given some good practical stuff to think about. First off, don't rush into anything.
Take your time, right?
100%.
Mhm.
Do your research, understand your own motivations, your boundaries, find an entry point that feels comfortable for both of you.
So whether that's like online forums, checking out that swing lifestyle resource we talked about,
Or even, cautiously checking out the club scene.
there are ways to explore this at your own pace, on your own terms.
Exactly. And approach it with curiosity. Be open to learning, but never, ever compromise on consent and respect. Those are non-negotiable.
Totally. So we've talked about online forums, swingers clubs. What about when you're ready to, like, take things offline? Are there other resources out there for couples who are new to this and want to find their people?
Absolutely. The guide actually specifically mentions a website called Swing Lifestyle.
Swing lifestyle. Okay, what is that?
Think of it as like a one-stop shop for all things swinging. They've got info on local events. You can connect with other swingers in your area. Plus, they have tons of tips and advice from like experienced couples.
So it's a good way to, like, navigate this whole world, especially at first when you might feel overwhelmed.
Exactly. And then
Oh,
beyond Swing Lifestyle, there are tons of online communities, social media groups. There are even dating apps now that are specifically designed for like polyamorous folks.
it's kind of wild how technology has made it easier to find your tribe, no matter how you define your relationships.
Right. It really speaks to how much the world of relationships is changing. And this deep dive, we're honestly just scratching the surface. There's so much more to unpack here.
No doubt, but I feel like you've already given us some incredible takeaways, especially about how important that communication and consent are. Like that feels like the biggest takeaway for me.
Oh, for sure. That's like the foundation of any healthy relationship, period. Doesn't matter if it's monogamous, open, whatever you're into.
It's so true. It's almost like this whole deep dive hasn't been just about swinging. It's been more about how we can redefine relationships altogether when we're honest, when we're open with each other.
Totally. It's like this
Yeah.
exploration into swinging, it actually highlights stuff that matters in any marriage or relationship. That
Uh-huh.
communication, that mutual respect, that genuine desire for your partner to be happy.
Right. And even if a couple listening is like, you know what, swinging's not for us. Just the conversations this topic brings up
Yeah,
about boundaries, desires, really supporting your partner. That's huge.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about realizing that, like love and relationships, there's no instruction manual that works for everyone. The important thing is figuring out what feels right for you, for your relationship, what feels authentic, fulfilling. And that takes those tough conversations, challenging those old ideas about how it all should be.
Exactly. It's like write your own relationship rule book. Don't just blindly follow what everyone else is doing.
Exactly. And for the folks out there who are intrigued by this whole swinging thing, this deep dive is giving you some real practical stuff to consider.
Definitely don't rush into anything.
Please take your time,
Yeah.
do your research, figure out your own motivations, your boundaries, and find that entry point together that feels good for both of you.
So whether that's on loose forums, maybe checking out that swing lifestyle site we talked about,
Or even dipping your toes into the club scene carefully.
there are ways to do this at your own speed, on your own terms.
100%. And approach it with that open mind. Be ready to learn, but those lines we talked about, consent, respect, those are non-negotiable, always.
Always. Well said. It's been amazing to dive into this with you, to kind of unpack all
The
this.
pleasure was all mine. The stuff is fascinating.
And to everyone listening, thanks for coming on this journey with us. Remember, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. So keep exploring, keep those conversations about love and desire flowing. And until next time, stay curious.